1 month after our divorce, I received a text from my ex-wife. We need to talk, urgently. But at that exact moment, I saw her standing right outside my door, pale-faced, her hands trembling as she clutched a stack of documents stamped in red. I coldly replied, "Another time," thinking she was trying to drag me back into our old drama. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. "If you don't listen right now, you'll lose everything. If you enjoy intense drama stories with shocking twists and satisfying endings like this one, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next episode." I didn't hate the quiet. After the divorce, quiet was the only thing that didn't ask questions. It didn't pick a side. It didn't look at me like I'd failed. That evening in Decatur, I pulled into the driveway a little after 7, shoulders still tight from the warehouse. My work boots felt heavier than they should have. I wanted food, a shower, and 10 minutes where nobody needed anything from me. The garage door was already open. Derek stood inside like he belonged there, leaning against my tool cabinet, scrolling on his phone. The same hoodie he always wore, the same half smile that never reached his eyes. My son, Malik, was at the kitchen table through the open door, hunched over homework, earbuds in. I could see his knee bouncing under the chair. He didn't even look up when I walked in. Derek lifted his chin. "Yo, you got that socket set?" The big one. He said it like he was asking for a cup of sugar, like it was normal to show up unannounced and treat my garage as his personal storage unit. I tossed my keys into the bowl by the door and kept my voice even. "What are you doing here, Derek?" He shrugged. "Needed a couple things. Relax." My jaw tightened. I could have ended it right there. Could have told him to get out. Could have reminded him that I was 45 years old, paying every bill in this house, trying to raise my kid without chaos following us into every corner. Instead, I walked past him and grabbed my work bag. Malik glanced up for half a second, then went back to his math. Derek drifted deeper into the garage, opening drawers like he was browsing a store. Then I heard it, the soft metallic jingle of my spare car key ring. I turned. He had my second set of keys in his hand. "Put those down." He smirked like I was being dramatic. "Man, why are you always acting like everything's a big deal?" "Because it is," I said, but quieter than I wanted. Malik could hear us if I raised my voice. That thought alone made me swallow the rest of my anger. I didn't want my son watching two grown men fight over respect like teenagers. Derek held the keys up, shaking them once. "You ain't even using this car. I might borrow it this weekend." He moved toward the file cabinet in the corner. My stomach tightened again. That cabinet held paperwork I kept because I'd learned the hard way what happens when you don't. Mortgage statements, tax returns, Malik's school documents, divorce papers. The things you need when life decides to turn on you. Derek slid open the top drawer without asking. I stepped in fast and pushed it shut. "Don't touch my stuff." His face hardened for a moment. Then he laughed like I'd told a joke. "Look at you, always thinking you important." That word, important, came out like an insult. He glanced toward the kitchen where Malik sat, then back at me. "You know why she left you, right? All that pride. You can't bend. You can't admit you wrong." The mention of my ex-wife hit like a thumb pressed into a bruise. My chest tightened, but I didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. I picked up a broom and started sweeping near the garage entrance, like dust mattered more than what he'd just said. Derek watched me for a beat, then tossed the spare keys back into the drawer. Damn, you got issues." He grabbed a small tool bag from the shelf and walked out without waiting for an answer, leaving the garage door open behind him. I stood there a second too long, listening to the fade of his footsteps, feeling something sour settle behind my ribs. A familiar feeling, the one that told me I'd just accepted another small disrespect to keep the peace. Inside, Malik pushed his books aside. "Uncle Derek leave?" "Yeah," I said. "You hungry?" He nodded. I heated leftovers, asked about school, made sure he took out the trash. I kept my tone steady, my face calm. That's what I did now. I kept things moving. When Malik disappeared into his room, I rinsed the dishes and dried my hands on a towel. The house finally went quiet again. I stepped onto the front porch to take out my phone, mostly to check tomorrow's schedule. A message sat at the top of my screen. "We need to talk. Urgently. My ex-wife." I stared at it longer than I should have. My first instinct was to ignore it. A month divorced, and I'd promised myself I wouldn't let her pull me back into anything. I typed 2 words, "another time." Before I could even lock my phone, I heard a car door shut. I looked up. She stood at the edge of my porch steps, pale, breathing hard, both hands gripping a thick folder. A red stamp marked the top page like a warning. She didn't wait for me to invite her. "Marcus," she said, voice shaking. "If you don't listen right now, you'll lose everything." My hand stayed on the doorknob, but I didn't turn it yet. I just watched her, the folder trembling slightly in her grip, and felt the last bit of peace I'd been clinging to slip out from under me as I opened the door wide enough for her to step in. My ex-wife stepped inside like she didn't trust the air outside to hold her up. She kept the folder tight against her chest, knuckles white, eyes fixed on me, as if I might slam the door and make her problem disappear. She didn't waste time. "There's a loan in your name," she said. "Signed last week, a week before the divorce was finalized." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline that wasn't coming. "That's not possible." She opened the folder right there in my living room, flipping to the top page with the red stamp. The paper looked official in the way official things always do. Clean type, stiff formatting, signatures placed like they'd been rehearsed. My signature sat at the bottom. The curve of the M, the slant, the way I crossed my T. It was mine, and it wasn't. My stomach dropped so hard I had to brace a hand on the back of the couch. "You told me this was about Malik," I said, forcing my voice to stay flat. "It is," she replied. "If they seize your accounts, he loses too." That sentence did more than scare me. It lit something sharp in my head. I didn't have the luxury of disbelief, not with my kid sleeping down the hall, not with my paycheck already stretched, not with my name sitting under a document I never touched. She slid another page forward. "They sent a notice," she said. "They're moving fast. If you don't respond, they'll freeze everything and start the process to take the house. We don't even have that house anymore." Her eyes flickered. "They're claiming an interest in it. Something about collateral. Marcus, I'm telling you, this is real." I looked past her at Malik's closed bedroom door. The quiet in this house suddenly felt fragile, like it could snap with one wrong breath. "Why are you bringing this to me?" I asked. "Why now?" She swallowed. "Because they contacted me too. They think I knew. And because your brother has been asking questions about your accounts, about your car, about what you got after the divorce." That made my jaw lock. Derek's hands on my spare keys. Derek opening my file drawer like he owned my name. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse her of anything. I simply took the folder from her and walked to the kitchen table, spreading the pages out under the overhead light. My eyes moved line by line, hunting for a mistake. There weren't any. The next morning, I drove to Buckhead before traffic thickened. I wore a clean button-down and my work badge out of habit, like professionalism could protect me from whatever waited behind those glass doors. The banker at the front desk smiled too brightly. "How can I help you today?" "I need to speak to someone about my account," I said. "It's urgent." She asked for my ID, typed, paused. The smile slipped off her face as she looked at her screen. "One moment, sir." She walked away without explanation. 2 minutes later, a man in a suit came out and called my name like he was calling someone into a back room at a hospital. He led me to a small office and shut the door. "Mr. Johnson," he began, hands folded on the desk, voice careful. "There's a hold on your accounts." I stared at him. "What kind of hold?" "A legal hold," he said, "related to a loan in a potential fraud investigation. I'm not authorized to discuss all details, but at this time, we're unable to release funds or allow transactions." I felt heat crawl up my neck. I didn't take out a loan. He didn't react, didn't argue, just nodded the way people do when they've heard the same line 100 times. "I understand you're saying that," he replied, "but the documents we have show otherwise." "Show me." He slid a copy across the desk. There it was again. My signature, my name, my life, stamped and filed like it belonged to someone else. I pushed the paper back. "This is forged." The man exhaled slowly. "Then you'll need to file a dispute and cooperate with the investigation," he said. "Until then, the hold remains." Outside the office, a line of customers waited at the teller windows. A woman glanced at me, then at the banker walking me out, then quickly looked away. A man behind her stared for half a second longer than he should have. I could feel it. People reading the situation without knowing the facts, assigning guilt because silence always looks like guilt. I walked out of that bank with my hands empty. In the parking deck, my phone buzzed. A message from payroll. "Marcus, we received a garnishment order. Please come see HR as soon as you can. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it show. I sat in the car for a moment, engine off, staring at the steering wheel like it could explain how my life got hijacked overnight. My ex-wife called. "What happened?" she asked, voice low. "They froze everything," I said. "And my job just got dragged into it." She went quiet, then spoke again, careful. "I know someone," she said. "A lawyer. Tanya Brooks. She's tough. She won't let them bury you." I didn't want help from my ex-wife. I didn't want anyone's help. Pride had always been my armor. But pride didn't pay my rent. Pride didn't protect Malik. "Send me her information," I said. A few minutes later, I was sitting in a different parking lot outside my office, watching people walk in with coffee cups and normal problems, while my phone displayed Tanya's number. My thumb hovered over the screen, then pressed call before I could talk myself out of it. The phone rang twice before a woman picked up. "Tanya Brooks." I gave my name and kept it short. No emotion, just facts. "My bank froze my accounts this morning. There's a loan in my name I didn't sign. Payroll says they got a garnishment order. I need help." She didn't gasp or offer sympathy. Her voice stayed steady, like she'd heard worse. "Do you have the paperwork?" "Yes." "Good. Don't explain it to anyone at work. Not yet. Email me copies, then pull your credit report tonight. All 3 bureaus. We'll start there." That was it. No sermon. No pep talk. I respected that. I ended the call and walked into the building like nothing happened. Badge swiping, head up. The warehouse in College Park always smelled like cardboard and diesel. Always loud enough to drown out your thoughts. That day, even the noise couldn't cover what I felt crawling under my skin. In the break room, the vibe shifted the second I stepped in. A guy I'd worked next to for years stopped mid-sentence. Another man pretended to read the vending machine labels. One of the supervisors glanced at his phone, then at me, then quickly away. I poured coffee into a paper cup and waited for someone to say it out loud. No one did. They didn't need to. The rumor moved faster than truth ever does. By lunch, I heard it in fragments. He got his account froze. They looking into him. Man, you never know who doing what behind closed doors. I wanted to ask them what they thought they knew. Instead, I ate my sandwich at my desk and kept working. Stoic, professional, unbothered. That's what I'd built my reputation on. Inside, questions kept circling. Had I signed something years ago and forgotten? Had I clicked a link I shouldn't have? Had I left a document on a counter where someone could grab it? My mind started rewriting my own past, trying to find the moment I deserved this. After my shift, I drove straight to Tanya's office in Midtown. She was younger than I expected. Sharp eyes, neat suit, a stack of files already open. She slid a legal pad toward me. "We don't guess," she said. "We prove. Tonight, you'll pull your credit reports. Tomorrow, you'll request your bank's transaction history and every copy of that loan application. We'll also ask your employer's IT department for your email access logs." I nodded, taking notes like I was back in training. "And your brother?" she asked. My throat tightened. "He's been in my garage. He's touched my file cabinet." She held my gaze. "Then you install cameras tonight. You don't accuse him. You document him." Back home, I ate standing up, checked on Malik's homework, then went straight to the garage. I mounted 2 small cameras, one facing the driveway, one aimed at the file cabinet, quietly, like it was just another chore. At midnight, I sat at my kitchen table and pulled my credit reports. New inquiries, accounts I didn't recognize, numbers that didn't belong to me. Then I logged into my work email security portal, the one I barely ever used. A list of recent sign-ins appeared. One entry made my stomach drop. Unknown device, unknown browser. Logged in the night before my divorce finalized. I stared at that line until my eyes burned, then closed the laptop and drove to work in the morning without telling a single person what I'd just found. The diner in Marietta smelled like burnt coffee and fried bacon, the kind of place that stayed busy because it felt familiar to everyone. Derek picked it on purpose. I knew that the second I walked in and saw 2 men from our old neighborhood sitting near the window, laughing like nothing in the world had ever touched them. Derek stood up before I even reached the table. "There he is," he said, loud enough for half the room to hear. "Mr. Responsible." I slid into the booth without taking the bait. My eyes stayed on him, not the audience. "Why you call me out here?" I asked. He waved a hand like he was doing me a favor. "Because you've been acting crazy. People asking questions, Mom's worried. You got folks thinking you out here getting caught up in fraud. One of the men by the window glanced over. I could feel the attention in the air, the way it sticks to your skin when people think they're watching a story unfold. I kept my voice level. You didn't answer my question. Derek leaned forward, elbows on the table. Man, don't do that cold robot thing. We family. I'm trying to talk to you. Then talk, I said, quietly. His mouth twitched, annoyed that I wouldn't perform for him. So he shifted gears. Let's talk about how you blew up your marriage, he said, louder again. How you left that woman out here looking stupid. You got a son, Marcus. You don't get to just walk away. My chest tightened, but I didn't flinch. Malik's face flashed in my head, the way he'd watched me lately, like he was measuring whether I was still solid. I leaned in a little. What did you do with my paperwork, I asked. What did you touch in my garage? Derek blinked like he hadn't expected that. Then he laughed, hands up. See? This what I'm talking about. You always accusing me of something, like I'm the problem in your life. He turned toward the window table, voice softening into something wounded. I try to help my brother, and he treats me like a criminal. The men near the window nodded like they understood. One of them muttered something about pride. Derek drank that in, feeding off it. I sat back and let the silence stretch. No raised voice, no slammed fists. Tanya's words played in my head. Document him. Don't accuse him. So I pulled my phone from my pocket and placed it on the table, screen down. Derek's eyes flicked to it. You recording? He asked, suddenly sharp. I'm listening, I said. He scoffed, then lowered his voice, but the bitterness stayed. You think you so clean, he said. You think you above everybody, but you ain't. Everybody got dirt. My coffee arrived. I didn't touch it. Did you use my spare keys, I asked. He gave me a slow smile. You really want to do this right here? Answer the question. His smile faded. For a second, something cold showed behind his eyes. Then it disappeared, replaced by that same victim face. You need help, Marcus, he said, shaking his head like he felt sorry for me. Divorce got you paranoid. I stood up. No dramatic exit, just a decision made in my body before my mouth caught up. I'm done talking, I said. Derek laughed under his breath. That's what you do, he called after me. Run. Then blame everybody else. I walked out with my hands steady. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed. A notification from the bank, then an email, then another. I opened the first message and felt my stomach drop all over again. The old house, my old life, had been used as collateral. A home equity loan. My name on it. My signature again. The amount was big enough to drown someone. I scrolled down, eyes fixed on the numbers. The funds had already been dispersed, nearly all of it withdrawn. Air moved in and out of my lungs, but my body didn't feel like mine. That house wasn't just property. It was where Malik learned to ride a bike, where I'd painted the living room the color my ex-wife wanted, because I thought that's what marriage looked like. Small compromises, building a home. Someone had reached back and stripped it like it was nothing. I leaned against my car door and forced myself to breathe slower. No panic, no phone calls to family. No shouting at Derek in front of that diner. None of that would fix this. My thumb hovered over Tanya's number, then hit dial as I climbed into the driver's seat. Tanya picked up before the second ring. Tell me you're not driving, she said. Parked, I answered, hands still on the wheel. I read her the bank message word for word. When I got to the part about the home equity loan, she didn't interrupt. She let the silence sit, then spoke with the kind of calm that only comes from experience. That's escalation, she said. They're not just messing with your cash. They're trying to take your foundation. How does a bank even let this happen? Because the paperwork looks clean, she replied, and because whoever did it knows exactly what they're doing. She told me to forward everything. She told me not to contact Derek again. She told me to keep showing up at work like normal. Then she said something that stuck in my throat. Your family is going to turn into a weapon if you let them. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I already knew. By the time I got home, Malik was in the kitchen waiting on dinner like he always was, acting like everything was fine, because that's how kids survive adults' problems. We eating soon? He asked. Yeah, I said. Give me 10. I cooked with my mind somewhere else. Pasta, jar sauce, frozen meatballs. Nothing fancy, something I could do on autopilot. After dinner, Malik asked if we could go for a walk. He didn't say why, but I didn't push him. I grabbed my keys and we drove out to Stone Mountain Park, the place we used to go when he was younger and the world felt simpler. We didn't talk much at first. Malik kicked at the gravel along the path, hands in his hoodie pocket. "You and Mom good?" he asked, like he was asking about the weather. I kept my eyes forward. "We're handling grown-up stuff," I said. "You don't need to carry it." He nodded, but the way he nodded told me he already was. My phone buzzed. I checked it without stopping. An email, no name, no subject line, just a file attachment and one sentence. "Check who your brother's been talking to." Tanya was on the CC line. I opened the attachment and my throat went dry. A screenshot of a text exchange, Derek's number, a contact labeled Legal J, messages about signature templates and timing. One line stood out like it was underlined. "Needs to be dated before the divorce goes final. Make it look normal." My fingers tightened around the phone until my knuckles hurt. Malik didn't notice. He kept walking, looking at the ground like teenagers do when they're thinking too hard, but don't want anyone to know. I forwarded it to Tanya right away. She called within minutes. "This is big," she said. "Not enough by itself, but it points the right way." "Who sent it?" "Doesn't matter yet," she replied. "What matters is we get the official access logs and the audit trail. We can't walk into court with screenshots from a mystery person and expect a judge to risk their license." Her voice sharpened. "Marcus, listen. Your brother isn't playing small. He's using your name like a tool." I stared at Malik, walking a few steps ahead of me, and I felt something shift, a line getting drawn inside my chest. That same night, Derek started working the other angle. My mom called while I was washing dishes. "What's going on with you?" she asked, voice tight. "Derek says you accusing him of stealing and you acting unstable." I shut off the water and dried my hands slowly. "He's lying," I said. "He said you've been talking crazy since the divorce," she continued. "That you need to calm down before you ruin your job." The old version of me would have softened, would have tried to explain, would have begged her to believe me, would have taken blame just to keep the peace. That night, I drove to her house anyway, not to argue, to look her in the eye and say what needed to be said. She opened the door with worry written all over her face. "Baby, come in," she said. Derek was already there, sitting on her couch like a king. "See," he said, smiling. "I told you he'd show up." I didn't sit. I didn't raise my voice. "Mom," I said, "I'm not here to debate. I'm here to tell you I'm handling this legally. I need you to stay out of it." Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her. "Marcus." Derek leaned forward, ready to talk over her, ready to twist the moment. I cut him off with one sentence, steady as concrete. "I've already filed reports," I said, "and I've asked my company to open an investigation into my accounts." His smile froze. I turned back to my mother. "If you want to support me," I said, "you'll stop listening to rumors, and you'll stop letting him use you." Her mouth opened, then closed. Tears pooled in her eyes, and for a second I almost caved, almost stepped back into the old role, protector, fixer, peacekeeper. Instead, I nodded once and walked out. Behind me, my mother called my name, softer each time. I kept going, got into my car, and drove home with my hands steady on the wheel, already thinking through the next email I needed to send Tanya and the next form I needed to sign. Tanya had a habit of keeping her office cold, not temperature-wise, just the way she ran things. Everything had a place. Every word meant something. No wasted motion. I sat across from her in Midtown the next afternoon, with a folder of printouts and a legal pad full of my own notes. She didn't ask how I was holding up. She didn't offer a coffee. She clicked a pen and got to work. "Start from the first strange thing you noticed," she said. I told her about the spare keys, the file cabinet, Derek's borrowing that never came with permission. I told her about the unknown email sign-in and the loan documents that wore my signature like a mask. Tanya stood up and wrote on a whiteboard. Date, time, location, account. She made it look simple, but it wasn't. My life had been picked up and rearranged by someone who understood systems, and now I had to rebuild my own story from the ground up. She drew a line down the center of the board. On one side, what happened. On the other, what we could prove. "Feelings won't help you in court," she said. "Proof will." I nodded and leaned forward, pointing at the loan date. "This was signed a week before the divorce," I said. "I was at work that whole day. Badge scans, camera footage. I can pull that." "Good," she replied. "We'll request it." My phone buzzed with another unknown number. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. No message, just dead air. Tanya watched me set the phone down. "That's pressure," she said. "They want you distracted." I didn't respond. but I felt something in my chest settle into place. Not peace, not relief, more like focus. The panic had burned off, leaving a clean edge behind. We spent the next hour tracking every thread: bank account holds, credit inquiries, home equity loan, payroll garnishment notice, email sign-in log. She circled patterns with a marker and kept asking the same question: who benefits? The answer kept coming back to Derek, even when I didn't want it to. Before I left, Tanya handed me a checklist. File a police report if you haven't already, she said. Ask for a case number. Request your bank's fraud packet. Freeze your credit. And keep documenting anything strange. I'm already on it, I said. She gave me a look. Then keep going. This is chess, not a bar fight. I drove home in rush hour traffic and pulled into my street just after Malik got back from school. He walked in the door with his backpack half open, shoes kicked off without looking. Some dude asked about you today, he said, like he was talking about a substitute teacher. My hands paused on the grocery bag. What dude? I don't know, he said. He was outside the school fence. He asked if you still worked at the warehouse. I didn't say nothing. I just walked away. A tightness hit my throat, but I kept my face steady. You did the right thing, I said. If anyone asks you questions again, you don't answer. You come tell me. He nodded and went to his room without adding anything else. Malik had my stubborn streak. He also had my habit of carrying weight quietly. That night, while Malik showered, I noticed a sedan parked down the street that I didn't recognize. It sat there with the engine off, lights dark. The same car had been there 2 nights ago, and the night before that. I didn't storm outside. I didn't start yelling into the street. I grabbed my phone, zoomed in, and took a picture of the license plate. Then I walked back inside and locked the door like I always did. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Another silent call, another hang-up. I opened a note on my phone and started logging. Date, time, number, plate. When Malik came back downstairs, I asked about his homework, made him a sandwich, and listened to him complain about a teacher who assigned too much reading. I kept my tone normal, because a kid shouldn't have to live in a house that feels hunted. After he went to bed, I emailed Tanya the photos and the call log. I didn't add commentary, I just sent the facts. She replied close to midnight. Received. Keep documenting. I'm waiting on your company's IT response. I stared at my laptop screen for a long moment, then shut it and walked to the garage to check the camera feeds. Everything looked quiet. No movement, no alerts. My phone rang again. This time it was Tanya. IT got back to me, she said without greeting. That unknown device sign-in? The IP address traces to the same area as Derek's neighborhood. My grip tightened on the phone. That's enough, right? I asked. It's a direction, she answered. Not a conviction. We need full logs, and for that, we'll need a subpoena or a court order. I glanced at the clock on the wall, almost 1 in the morning. Malik was asleep. The house was still. My name was still trapped in paperwork that said I was a thief. What's the next move? I asked. Tanya paused. We prepare for the wave, she said. Because once we push for records, they're going to push back. I didn't say anything after that. I just looked at the time, then at the door leading into the house, and started thinking about what I could lock down before morning. The bank lobby downtown was quiet in the way places get when people are trying not to make eye contact. I walked up to the counter with my ID, and the folder Tanya told me to carry everywhere, like paperwork could keep the ground from shifting under my feet. The teller scanned my card, typed, then stopped. I'm going to get my manager, she said, voice polite. A few minutes later, a woman in a navy blazer appeared and led me into a small office. She closed the door and sat across from me with her hands folded. Mr. Johnson, this is now an official hold, she said. Your assets are being retained pending investigation. I stared at her. So what does that mean exactly? She slid a printed notice across the desk. Cards locked, transfers blocked, accounts restricted. Another line sat near the bottom, clinical and cruel. If the loan wasn't resolved within a short window, it would be reported as delinquent and sent to collections. My throat tightened. You're telling me I'm going to be treated like I'm guilty? I said. She didn't argue. She didn't apologize. She spoke like a person reading a policy. I'm telling you the bank is following procedure. Procedure. That word made my stomach turn. I walked out with the notice folded in my pocket and my dignity taped together with habit. On the sidewalk, my phone buzzed with a calendar alert. HR, Conference room B, 10 minutes. I drove straight to the office and went upstairs without stopping at my desk. HR didn't offer me a chair at first. They just slid a document across the table. Marcus, the representative said, we received a report of potential financial misconduct connected to your name. I read the first paragraph and felt my ears ring, not from anger, from the sudden, sharp realization that the rumor wasn't just gossip anymore. It had teeth. This is not me, I said. The HR rep nodded like she'd practiced that reaction. We're not making a final determination, she replied. But until this is clarified, we need you to temporarily hand off your responsibilities. Access to certain systems will be limited. My badge on the lanyard suddenly felt heavy, like a weight around my neck. I stood up, signed what I needed to sign, and walked out into the hallway where people kept moving like my life hadn't just cracked open. A supervisor passed by and gave me a look that tried to be kind but landed wrong, like pity. Outside, in the parking deck, I sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel until my hands stopped shaking. Then my mom called. Her voice came through tight and tired. Marcus, why am I hearing you're trying to run? What are you talking about? I asked. Derek sent something, she said. A paper. He said you got debts and you're planning to disappear and leave everybody holding the bag. I closed my eyes. It's a lie, I said. It's fake. He said you've been acting out since the divorce, she continued, and I could hear the disappointment in every word. He said you're dragging all of us into it. My grip tightened around the phone until my knuckles went white. I could have defended myself, could have begged, could have argued until my voice broke. Instead, I swallowed it down and ended the call before I said something I couldn't take back. The silence after felt louder than the warehouse ever did. I sat there for a second, then reached for my phone again, pulled up Tanya's number, and hit call as I started the engine. Tanya met me outside the DeKalb County Police Station with a folder tucked under her arm and that same no-nonsense look she always wore. We're not waiting, she said as soon as I got out of the car. We're strengthening the record. Inside, the front desk officer took our case number and walked us through the steps like he'd done it 1,000 times. Tanya spoke in short sentences. I stayed quiet, answering only when asked. My voice didn't shake. I couldn't afford it. We handed over copies of the loan documents, the credit report flags, the email sign-in entry, and the screenshots from the anonymous tip. Tanya also gave them the license plate photos and the timestamps. The officer flipped through the pages and nodded slowly. This is a lot, he said. We'll attach it and forward it to the investigator. We were turning to leave when a man in a faded polo shirt stepped near the counter and cleared his throat. Excuse me, he said, looking straight at me. Are you Marcus Johnson? I froze for half a beat. Tanya didn't. Who are you? She asked. The man held up his hands. Name's Rick, he said. I used to work at the bank in Buckhead. Not there anymore. But I saw something when this whole thing started. He glanced around the lobby like he wasn't sure he should be talking. I saw your brother, he continued, eyes back on me. I didn't know he was your brother then. I just remember his face. He came in with a woman, middle-aged, real confident. She walked like she owned the place. My stomach tightened. What kind of woman? Tanya asked. Rick shrugged. Could be family, could be anybody. But she had the paperwork already organized, like she'd done it before. She handed it to the banker and said, "Everything you need is right here." He swallowed. Your brother was smiling the whole time, like this wasn't serious, like he was watching somebody else's life get rearranged. Tanya asked him for his contact information and wrote it down. The officer at the desk did the same, taking a quick statement. As we walked outside, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Derek. You really gonna do all this? You look crazy, bro. No threat, no curse, just that word again. Crazy. The easiest label to stick on a man when you want people to stop listening to him. I didn't reply. Tanya glanced at the screen. He's shaping the story, she said. Let him. We're building the record. Later that afternoon, she called me into her office again. She had an email pulled up on her computer, eyes sharp. We got partial logs, she said. It's not everything, but it's enough to show pattern. She turned the screen toward me. A system access request, dated last year, my name on it. A secondary account created under IT for support during peak season. Something I'd asked for when we were short-staffed, and I was drowning in deadlines. Tanya highlighted the line beneath it. Access granted to internal document storage. I felt a dull ache behind my eyes. I did that. I said quietly. You authorized it, she corrected. Someone else used it. She clicked into the audit trail. A scan of my signature file had been pulled from that shared folder. The timestamp matched the night before my divorce finalized. The same night the unknown device logged into my email. The pieces locked together so clean it made me sick. Derek hadn't hacked anything. He'd walked through a door I'd held open for him, because I thought family meant trust. Tanya printed the log pages and slid them into the growing stack. This is the weakness, she said. It connects the access, the timing, and the document. Now we move toward court. We drove over to the courthouse in Decatur to file additional paperwork before the office closed. When we got back to the car, Tanya sat behind the wheel and laid the thick folder on my lap. I rested my hand on it, felt the weight, and let out a slow breath while she started the engine. The hallway outside the courtroom smelled like old paper and nervous sweat. Tanya walked beside me with a calm face, folder tucked tight under her arm. I kept my hands at my sides, shoulders squared, like I was heading into a meeting instead of a fight for my name. Derek was already there. He leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, dressed nicer than usual, hair cut fresh. He smiled when he saw me, the kind of smile that tries to turn pain into a joke. Look at you, he said. You really brought a lawyer. I didn't answer. Tanya didn't either. She opened the door when the bailiff called our case. Inside, Derek took his seat like he belonged on that side of the room. My mother sat behind him with a tissue in her hand. 2 cousins I hadn't spoken to in months filled the row next to her. They wouldn't look at me. Derek started talking before the judge even settled in. Your Honor, my brother's going through something, he said. Ever since his divorce, he's been trying to control everything. I'm just trying to survive. I only borrowed what I needed. The judge raised a hand for silence. Derek sat back with a wounded expression, like he'd been slapped. Tanya stood when it was her turn, voice steady and clean. Your Honor, we're here because Mr. Johnson's identity and financial standing have been exploited, she said. We're not dealing with family disagreements. We're dealing with fraud. Derek shook his head and looked at my mother. See? He whispered loud enough for me to hear. He always doing the most. My mother dabbed her eyes. That hurt more than anything Derek said. It felt like someone pressing a thumb into a fresh cut. The judge asked if Derek had anything to add. Derek stood, palms open, playing humble. I'm not a bad person, he said. Marcus always acted like he was above me. I just needed help, and he's trying to ruin me because he can't handle losing his wife. My mother spoke next, voice shaking. He's my son, she said, looking at the judge instead of me. Derek wouldn't do something like that. Marcus, he's been angry. He's been hard. I didn't move. I didn't defend myself. I couldn't, not with my mother choosing feelings over facts in front of a judge. Tanya's turn came again. She didn't look at Derek. She didn't look at my mother. She faced the bench and began laying down paper like bricks. Here is the bank's internal camera footage from Buckhead, she said. Mr. Johnson is not present. Mr. Derek Johnson is present with an unidentified woman delivering a prepared packet. Derek shifted in his seat. Here are the access logs from Mr. Johnson's company email, Tanya continued. An unknown device signs in the night before the divorce finalizes. The IP location corresponds to the area where Mr. Derek Johnson resides. Derek opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Here is the audit trail showing a scanned signature file retrieved from a shared folder, Tanya said. A folder only accessible through a secondary account created at Mr. Johnson's request for operational support. That access was abused. She placed the last document on the table. And here is correspondence between Mr. Derek Johnson and an employee connected to legal documentation, discussing signature templates and backdating. The courtroom went quiet in a way that made my ears ring. Derek's face changed. The victim mask slipped. His lips moved like he was searching for a story that would still work. That's not what... The judge leaned forward. Mr. Johnson, he said, eyes on Derek, based on this evidence, I'm referring this matter to the proper investigative authorities. You will remain available for questioning. A deputy stepped toward Derek's side of the room. My mother gasped, hands flying to her mouth. Derek looked back at her, panic flashing now, raw and real. I stood when Tanya touched my elbow. We walked out of the courtroom without saying a word. In the hallway, I adjusted my collar, straightened my tie, and kept moving as voices rose behind us and footsteps hurried in the opposite direction. The first morning in Smyrna, Malik asked where the cereal was like nothing had changed. Boxes still sat half open on the kitchen floor. The sink didn't have a drain stopper yet. The curtain rods were up, but the curtains weren't. Life looked unfinished, but it was ours. "Top cabinet," I said, sliding a plate into the dishwasher. He found it, poured his bowl, and leaned against the counter. "This place cool," he said. "It's temporary," I told him. "Still cool." That was Malik. He didn't need perfect, he needed steady. I drove him to school, watched him walk through the doors without looking back, then went to work with a different badge, a different role. HR had moved me to a temporary assignment while the investigation ran its course. People still whispered, but the tone had shifted. Less judgment, more curiosity. The kind that comes after somebody realizes they backed the wrong story. Tanya called that afternoon. "They formally charged Derek," she said. "Forgery, fraud, identity theft. They're also looking at the person who helped process documents." I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I just let the words land like weight being lifted off my chest. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now he answers for it," she replied, "and you rebuild." In the weeks that followed, Derek's name turned into something nobody wanted close. Family members who defended him started avoiding calls. My mother stopped texting me entirely. The silence from her hurt, but I didn't chase it. Chasing had kept me trapped for too long. Evenings became routine. Malik would come home, drop his backpack, and ask what was for dinner. I'd cook, clean, check his grades, remind him about his permit test. Sometimes we watched basketball. Sometimes he stayed in his room, headphones on, living in whatever world teenagers live in. One Saturday, my ex-wife pulled into the driveway and got out holding a small box. I stepped onto the porch. "Malik left this at my place," she said. "Some old photos and his middle school hoodie." I took the box without touching her hand. We stood there for a moment, both of us careful, like any wrong word could reopen something we'd already buried. "How is he?" she asked. "He's okay," I said. "He's adjusting." She nodded, eyes drifting toward the front window like she expected to see him. "And you?" she asked. I didn't answer the way she wanted. I answered the way I meant. "I'm handling what I have to handle." That was as close to tenderness as we were going to get. She shifted her weight, lips parting like she had more to say, then stopped herself. "All right," she said quietly. "Take care." "You too," I replied. She walked back to her car, started the engine, and pulled away without looking in the rearview mirror. I carried the box inside, set it on the kitchen table, and went back out to the porch. The air was still. A neighbor's dog barked once, then settled. The street stayed empty after her car disappeared, and I sat down in the chair by the railing, listening to the sound fade until there was nothing left but the normal noise of a life that finally belonged to me.